Hey everyone, William here. Before we begin, I just wanted to make a little bit of a correction from the last episode. Um, when I was doing my LA regional review, I had mistakenly said that the max amount of people who can qualify for Vegas is 98 people. I did the math wrong in my head. For some reason, I thought the maximum amount was 90 men and 8 women. In reality, it's 90 men and 12 women, meaning that the maximum amount of people is indeed 102. And that's only assuming that no women make it into the top 15. So while it is possible for there to be 100 people in Vegas, I feel like the rest of my arguments still stand, especially because it's not guaranteed that we'll see 100 people in Vegas, and that's just one of the things I actually want out of Las Vegas. But other than that, the only other correction I wanted to make is that I mistakenly said that the second episode was going to be about Sacramento. It's San Antonio, which is a big difference, and that's what I'm going to get into right now. So, hi, my name is William, and I would like to talk to you about the San Antonio qualifiers of American Ninja Warrior Season 9, starting now, in 20 minutes or less, of course. So, this episode I think I liked it, overall. The course this time is, of course, they start with the floating steps, which God, they look like pinball flippers. Like, how come you couldn't call it like Flipper Row or something related to that? Second obstacle was the return of the TikTok, which proved to be a very difficult obstacle all around. Third obstacle was the spin bridge, which was making its debut in a regional qualifier. In the past, it was used for Vegas, and it had different elevations. I'm not sure about like the distance in between the balls. They seem to be kind of short, so it might be a bit on the easier side. But yeah, I mean, it still took some people out. After that was a brand new obstacle, one of the obstacles that was chosen from the design contest called the Sky Hooks. This obstacle was designed by a 7-year-old. In fact, basically it's like the bar hop, except you have you're on a ring on one hook, and you have to launch yourself to another hook, and you have to do that on 3 times. And it was fun ups. I wasn't a fan of it at first, but I did warm up to it. I think it's actually better than the bar hop, personally. I warmed up to it. I grew to like it more. And then after that is the pipe fitter. The same rules apply. Actually, I think they might have changed the rules when it comes to the actual last pipe. I can't remember if you were allowed to use your feet on the last pipe at the end or not. But in this one, either way, you weren't allowed to use your hands after the first of the 4 pipes. Sorry, you weren't allowed to use your feet. You were only allowed to use your hands. And then, of course, following up was the warped wall. So the opening, the very opening of American Ninja Warrior was a bit different because they made a big deal about the location. They were like, San Antonio, Texas. Everything's bigger in Texas, including our... So, and they made a whole big deal about that, and they showed all these local Texans, and including people who were from San Antonio who'd be competing. And what's really weird about that is that they showed people like, Thomas Stillings and Carson Williams as like local Texans, and then they proceeded to not show their runs. They got fast forward. I think there might have been a person who like was straight up not shown at all. So yeah, that was kind of weird. Just like, let's not show them after making a big deal about them. It's the qualifiers are so weird like that because they want to show all these like other people who will ultimately fail and be eliminated, but they also want to show like the returning veterans, and it's a balancing act that they need to work out still. But the opening video in many ways made me realize how A&W has never been able to settle on like a good opening theme. Like, what's the opening theme for A&W? There is none. And this one, and they've never really had a song that I was like, yeah. Nah, it wasn't that great. So as I was watching the show, there was some weird edits to this, and I think one of the things is that like one of the first contestants, these pair of twins came out, and the first one to run was Katie Haymaker, and she actually competed in Team Ninja Warrior College Madness for Texas A&M. And they made this whole big deal about twins, the two of them, they train together, who's better, that whole like sibling rivalry thing. And then they only show one of their runs. Like they showed Katie's run, and I think her sister was Haley. And they showed her later in a fast forward segment. But what was weird was that like they actually came to the starting line at the same time, and so that might have been like the first time where they really showed that this show is like the runs are shown out of order. I think that's the first time they actually like exposed that, because they like to pretend like things are shown in order of which they're recorded, which that doesn't happen a lot of the times. But that was weird. Also, I came to the conclusion of what's my actual problem with the profile pieces. Because it hit me. The biggest problem I have is that a lot of them are just too long. Like, that's the thing. Like showing, I'm not even like, I realize I'm not as against showing profile pieces that are like not as relevant to Ninja Warrior as I thought it was. The problem is like they're so long. Like there was this guy named Jody Avila. He was this big 6'6" guy. He works in air conditioning, and they had this whole profile about how he works the job. He's often too tall for some of the things he does. He gets some of the training in that he does, and I was like, okay, this is fine. But then it cuts to like almost a completely different profile piece for the guy, where he's showing himself training at home with his family. He's got his own home course gym, his own home built course, and it's like, I want Akbar to give me my own nickname, and it's like at the end they showed him standing next to his wife in like this big pose, like they were a big duo, but like his wife was like almost never even mentioned up to that point, and it's like, what's going on? Like, did his wife compete or I don't know. I honestly don't know. They never mentioned if his wife competed or not. It's so bizarre. It's like they took two separate profile pieces for the guy and just put them together and like stitched it all up. It was so bizarre. And like one of the one of the things that they mentioned was the fact that he's 6'6" and his wife is like 4'10". And it's like it felt like that was like cut out of the profile at some point. Anyway, he was good on the course. And he ended up clearing the whole thing. And so as a result, Akbar gave him his own nickname. He is the Big Dog Ninja. And immediately I thought, so does that mean he's Roman Reigns? I would explain that joke, but I don't want YouTube to deem this video not advertiser friendly for talking about pro wrestling. So I'm just going to move on. Anyway, speaking of Roman Reigns, Kacy Catanzaro was on the show in this particular episode. A&W is so predictable in their editing sometimes that as soon as I saw that she was not the last run of the night, I instantly knew she wasn't going to clear the course. Instantly. And I was right. She didn't clear the course. And she ended up going out on the skyhooks. And I was kind of afraid that they were going to super overexpose Kacy again, cause like I didn't mention this, but last week in the LA episode, like Jesse and Kacy were both there, but they made a bigger deal about Kacy being in the audience than Jesse, which was kind of weird. And in this episode, like they used her run to promote the show. And early on, there was a lot of Kacy moments before the first commercial break. And then her profile came, and it's like she was talking about how, like, she's had setbacks and, dealing with all the pressure that's been put on her after her big successful run A&W 6, which is fine. That's a perfectly fine thing. But then it goes into this whole other thing about her mom and how her mom had a heart attack. And I'm pretty sure her mom's still alive. I don't remember if they said that she was still. I'm pretty sure she's still alive now that I think about it. But I just remember when they cut to the heart attack again. It's almost like they cut to like a different profile piece. But this entire time, I'm just thinking to myself, you don't need this. You don't need this. Like, I don't need to know this like private moment in Kacy's life. Like, it's not necessary. Like I'm glad that her mom's okay, and I feel bad, but I don't need to know it. It's not pertinent to the show. And that's one of the things that did bother me, is that it really felt like they were trying to tug at the strings. Like, there was this one woman, I think it was Brittany Hanks. I could be mistaking her with someone else. She talked about how, she was running Ninja Warrior in memory of her mom, and it's like, and there was this other guy who was like running in memory of his dad, and like when they cut to the guy like crying, thinking about his dad, I'm just like, just no, stop it. Like, that's when I feel like it turns into exploitation. That's when it feels like it's getting exploitative. When the person is crying, I don't like it when A&W profits on misery. And there's a way to handle these type of subjects without making it feel like they're exploiting it. And showing them crying is like, for me, is like going too far. It's like, you don't need that. You don't need that. And I get, like, you can argue, oh, it makes them, makes them look human, but it's like, we're all human, I'm sorry, like, I just don't like that. I don't feel right with that. But getting back to Kacy, it's like, so she ended up failing the skyhooks, and she did not place in the top 30. But because of the top 5 women's rules, she is moving on to the next round. And that's when I feel like that's kind of what the rule was designed for. And that's because, like, my immediate thought was A&W got their wish. They want Kacy to appear in more episodes as a competitor. And that goes for all the women. They want to make sure that the women are in the regional finals so they can get more TV time. And the reality is Kacy's still a draw. It is what it is. And so she really benefited from this. However, speaking of women, Barclay Stocket was awesome on this episode. I saw her for the first time that I could remember at the National Ninja League Season 2 finals. And when I saw her, I was like, man, this girl is ripped. It's great. And she looked great. And she was impressive on the course. I saw big things coming from her. And She ended up making it to the pipe fitter. She ended up finishing in the top 30 at number 30. And really hope that we'll see more from her. Odds are we're going to see more from her in Vegas, because when you look at the top 5 women, it's not looking good for San Antonio women. The person who finished in 5th place for the women failed the TikTok, which is the second obstacle. So you have a situation where the 5th best woman failed the second obstacle, cleared one obstacle. It's like, congratulations, you cleared the first obstacle of 6. You move on to the next round. And it's like, ooh, yeah, it just doesn't look good. Like that, it doesn't make the rule look good. I've talked enough about the rule last time, but it's not a good look. And the 2 women who took 3rd and 4th place, they failed the sprint bridge, so they couldn't even clear half the course. And so there's no doubt in my mind that Kacy and Barclay are the 2 women moving on to Vegas. Because like the other 3 women, they didn't put an impressive enough performance. The odds are it's going to be Kacy and Barclay, and it's going to be kind of going to be pretty easy for them, quite frankly. But I was talking about like how all these different types of profile pieces. A good one was I forget what they had a guy who was legally blind on the course. That was inspiring. That was actually inspiring. I immediately thought of Akiyama. When he ran the course. He ended up failing on the skyhooks, but yeah, he was great. I love to see more from him. I know it wasn't enough to move on, but that was good. They finished the episode with Jonathan Horton. He was a gymnast, Olympian, who was supposed to be in 2016 games, but was injured, and basically he's not going to be able to do it anymore. I ended up clearing the whole thing. I'm really happy with that. Just for kind of a few more people, Nicholas Coolidge got fast forward again, and that guy can't catch a break. He'll one day beat the entire show, and they'll still fast forward most of his runs. Brent Sevenson made a big comeback for himself this time around. He ended up clearing the whole course. Glad to see him back. He looked strong on the course. Daniel Gill had the fastest run of the night. He's always really impressive with his speed. I'm definitely looking forward more to him. What else? Just kind of this. Yeah, there was Tremaine. I'm kind of surprised that he failed the pipe flitter. He looked uneasy. Towards the end, looked like he was looked really shaky right before he fell. There was quite a bit of veterans on the course that made it to the top 30. I would say overall a good episode. It was very challenging, I imagine, to edit, because if you look at the amount of runs, if you look at the actual runs on A&W Nation, like a lot of people, especially the women, failed the TikTok, and so they probably had to really pick and choose from what to show, so they don't just show nothing but TikTok fails. But in the end, there was 115 ninjas that ran the course this time around. That seemed to be pretty par for the course. So this time around, I counted 16 runs were shown and 24 fast forwards. And of the 16 clears, 12 were actually shown in some way. So four clears still got skipped entirely. No mentions. That's gotta suck. So in terms of the number of full runs, the number's a little bit better this time. I think they can try to go higher. I would really like to see to go higher, but I am low on time, so I'm just gonna quickly go through the list of clears. We had 16 clears this time around. For the top 30, we have Daniel Gill, Thomas Stellings, Josh Salinas, Brian Burkhart, Carson Williams, Nicholas Coolidge, Kevin Klein, Grant Clinton, Jody Avala, Andrew Lowe's, Brent Stephenson, Victor Guarez, Abel Gonzalez. Oh yeah, it was good to see him again. Glad he cleared this time around. Jonathan Horton, Tanner Ross, Jonathan Parr, and everyone else on the list failed the pipe fitter for the top 30. That would be Will Smithy, Kyle Ackel, David Yoder, Cass Clausen, Kenny Nimitalo, Nate Burkharter, Blake Devine, Brandon Pannell, Mike Holt, Damir Okanovit, Tremaine Deutsch, Sam Ballard, Jaron Brandy, and Barclay Stocket. And Barclay was the only woman to finish in the top 30, so the other 4 women in the top 5 are Kacy Catanzaro, who failed the skyhooks, Sherry Loreno and Katie Haymaker, who failed the spinning bridge, and Brittany Hanks, who failed the TikTok. And we already discussed the problem with that. One final note, the episode on the actual NBC broadcast, for where I am, the NBC cut the episode short. Like, they actually, in the middle of Matt giving the results for the top 5 women, NBC cuts to credits, and it goes to the voiceover guy going, "Next time on American Ninja Warrior, Drew Dressel and Jesse Graff." And I went to go watch the version on NBC.com, and that doesn't happen. It actually goes back to Matt giving us a preview of next week's episode, saying, but up next, watch Spartan Ultimate Team Challenge, and then saying, join us next week for American Ninja Warrior. So I guess the episode ran long, and NBC actually cut it slightly short. That was so bizarre to see. But for now, that's everything I have to say about San Antonio. So that is over and done with. Those are my thoughts on San Antonio. Overall, liked it. Had a few issues, but I'm willing to forgive and forget for now. So let me know what you think. Did you like the new obstacles? Did you like the profile pieces? Like, do you agree that maybe sometimes they go a bit too long or a bit too much for the sob stories? Let me know. I want to know. Let me know in the comments. And I will see you next week for Daytona. When I recap that, I know both Drew Dressel, Jesse Graff is going to be there. I think Ryan Stratus competed in that region too. So we got some good stuff to look forward to. I was told Daytona was fun, and hopefully that translates to the actual episode. So until next time, see ya.